Good evening there. This is Stephen here from Shortcuts. This is video 2, the classic rock list for the price list that will go out this Wednesday, May 21st at 9 p.m. Sydney time. If you are not on the mailing list and would like to be, drop me an email at shortcutsrecordsaus@gmail.com. Now, this list tonight features a bunch of, it's got a box set. It's got some Pink Floyd, some Stones, some really cool and interesting things. But where to start was the question. And actually, as is typical, I like to have a bit of fun with that. But I've started here. So, whilst I predominantly recommend Japanese and US, some UK pressings as part of my club, I'm not a total snob when it comes to Australian presses, and I do think there's been some really high quality ones that have made their way into my collection. Some are unusual. I think the Australian pressing of Sowing the Seeds of Love by Tears for Fears is incredible. The Australian pressing of Robbie Robertson's debut album is wonderful. I've got some really, really nice presses from back in the 70s as well. But one of, if not, hiding in plain sight is one of the great Aussie presses, and it's a box set. And it's a box set of the most famous band of them all. It is the Beatles collection box set, now called the Blue Box, released in 1978. This is the Australian first press, released in 1978, in November 1978. There's the box and there's the records. We'll come to that in a second. It is very unusual for this box to be in really good condition. Usually these corners are split, and as you can see, that is not the case in this copy that I have. It is in fantastic condition. So let's talk about what this box is. So by 1978, sales of Beatles records had slowed to a trickle. And I'm basing this on some videos that I watched from Parlogram YouTube. I'm going to put some links to those in this in the emails that go out this week. So, Ringo Starr had a solo record in, I think, early 78 that kind of died a death. Wings had London Town. Lennon and George Harrison hadn't released anything from 75, 76. And so EMI decided to put a box set out. And in the UK, they used really good quality plates and made the box. Now, there is some history around why the box didn't include any particular rarities, and I'll come to the Beatles Rarities album in a second. But there are some really interesting stories about how tapes were denied or wrong tapes were picked up or all sorts of weird and wonderful things. Oh, Bowie, hey, stop. You squeeze. Hey, stop squeezing your squeezer. I'm on a video. Ta-ta. Bloody hell. And so this collection featured all of the 12 Beatles records, not the collection of golden oldies that was released in in the mid-60s, but every other collection, and this. The Beatles Rarities, in the same kind of blue style as the box. Bowie, stop! And this featured a bunch of kind of mono and stereo B-sides and some German translations and things. At the time, was thought to be a bit of a disappointment. It was never, I think I can't remember if it was released separately in Australia, but a lot of sellers were extricating this album from the box set and selling it separately because it was seen to be the kind of selling point. Can you see where it says sampler album not for sale right there? Now, this also features all of the Beatles albums, all the way from the White Album, Beatles for Sale. The Sgt. Pepper also included the pressing with the various uniforms, etc. The White Album also included the smaller version of the prints of the kind of the portrait prints. Let me just grab those for you quickly so you can see those. Now, this set that I have here was bought in 1978 and was never played. And in fact, most of the records have never been outside of their sleeves. I'm going to leave it that way for the person who buys it. It has everything up to Abbey Road, and I'm just going to quickly run through the albums. You can see on the back of the box you've got the records, and this is the reason that I know this. Bowie, stop! The reason I know this is the 1978 press is because it's the one that has the gold leaf of the albums on the back. Please Please Me with the Beatles, Hard Day's Night, Beatles for Sale, Help, Rubber Soul, Revolver, Sgt. Pepper, White Album, Yellow Submarine, Abbey Road, Let It Be, and Rarities. So, let's talk a little bit about the sound quality. So, the copies that were made, the Australian copies used contemporary EMI pressings of the time. And a lot of them were, I'm going to take this one out just to show you, because I had actually looked at this one already, were kind of the black label EMI presses and some orange label as well. Now, here's the thing. They sound really good. Really good. Like, honestly, surprisingly great. And I would rank quite a lot of these as, up there with the Japanese presses that I've heard over the years. They're that good, and because they're all analog, and EMI actually went to the effort with engineers of doing this properly, you can really tell they sound really, really good. And the box itself is it is a hidden in plain sight treat. Now, in Australia, this box set was a massive success, and a gold leaf version was then released in the 80s. Now, it is an abomination most of the time because the gold leaf is flaked away. There's a little kind of cod certificate in it. It's really not worth any more really than the blue set. In fact, I've heard some of the records, and so as they went through the 80s, the contemporary records would then go into the boxes, and I actually think the 1978 presses are quite a bit superior. So what you've got here is 13 Beatles records that are in mint condition. The box itself is in great condition. I've never seen a better one. I thought that one of you out there might like this. It is really a treat. Now, I've got, for shipping, I have some box set shipping cases from Buy Me Please that I can use. Don't worry about the shipping side. It's a surprisingly great thing. And yeah, I think someone will enjoy that very, very much. Now, this box set in this condition is probably a $500-600 record. It won't be that much. I'm thinking kind of $400, maybe $425. I need to go and do the sums on what I bought it for. But it's in great nick. You will not find a better one in my view. And I've seen a few over the years and nowhere near as good as that. All right. So that's what's kicking us off. I actually have a pretty cool selection to go alongside that. including some records that I have not had for a really, really, really long time. And I'm going to start here. This is Pink Floyd's 1977 classic, Animals. This record holds a place in my heart because it was never a record that I particularly loved until someone I know very well got some tickets to the Roger Waters quadraphonic tour where he played Animals from start to finish. And this was before COVID, so this was a while ago. And he invited me to come along, and the seats were amazing. The sound quality was crackerjack, and the album itself just hit me between the eyes. I was like, wow, this thing is incredible. Of course, it's bleak, and it's about, societal norms gone wrong, and it is kind of psychotic in places. But I guess that's Roger Waters for you. But it's also kind of great, and bookended by those two acoustic songs, has some really stellar Dave Gilmour guitar work, particularly on Dogs, which is just so good. And so, in one of my first or second ever boxes that came from Japan six years ago, there was a copy with a little note of the first press of Animals, and it's still on my shelf. So when I see this come in, I'm always really pleased. It doesn't happen very often. In fact, I look back, I think it's 2 years since I had a copy of Animals. It's great. It's so good. It's so much better than the Aussie version. Oh my God. The Aussie version is really not good. But this Japanese version is lovely. The inspiration from Orwell's Animal Farm is obvious, I guess, but that doesn't matter. The pig flying over the power station at Battersea. In fact, at the gig, the pig flew around the arena. It's kind of bonkers. The pig named Algae, ALGAE, if you were interested. So yeah, there it is. By the way, it's quite small on the original sleeve. Wasn't so small with the Roger Waters bombastic show. There we go. Pigs, Dogs and Sheep and More on the wonderful Animals by Pink Floyd. Now, look at what I have here. This is a fantastic record, and many of you already have it. It is Beggar's Banquet, the Rolling Stones. It's the hard cardboard gatefold with the banquet in the middle. This is I can't remember whether this is the first press. I'm going to have to go and double check. But it is the version that comes with the all front facing obi. So it kind of goes a bit like this, but I'll put it all back together and I'll show you. On the original London label, SLC 479, this is the copy I have on my own shelf. I think it's the best sounding version of this I've ever heard, and I've heard quite a few at this point. And I'm just going to show you what that all front sleeve obi looks like. It looks like that, and it's pretty awesome. In wonderful condition, best I've seen in years. The Rolling Stones Beggar's Banquet. If you don't know Beggar's Banquet, let's just say Sympathy for the Devil, Street Fighting Man, and there are about 8 other tunes that are just as good. No Expectations, Salt of the Earth. It was critically lauded at the time. The Robert Christgau review is quite cool. It laid the groundwork for Let It Bleed and Sticky Fingers, which was on the list a few weeks back. The original toilet cover sleeve with Withdrawn. There's a few copies of the toilet cover sleeve out there now. I've never felt the need to grab one. I would if I could find a really good mono mix. I'm quite curious about the mono mix, particularly because of Sympathy for the Devil, that wonderful percussion suggested by the late great Marianne Faithfull. So there you go. The Beatles' Blue Box, followed by Animals, followed by Beggar's Banquet, followed by Revolver. We've already been talking Beatles, but I want to show you this. The red translucent vinyl Revolver is just a beautiful thing. Genuinely gorgeous and in really nice condition. Super hard to find. For those of you who love your Beatles and love Revolver, the translucent red Japanese press. Now, talking about red, this is something very different, but I think equally special. This is the debut album by the Talking Heads, 77, released in 1977, and there they all are on the back. The wonderful Talking Heads. Uh-oh, love comes to town, you feeling tentative decisions. The book I read leading up to Psycho Killer, which was buried at the arse end of the second half, which is kind of mind-boggling, isn't it? This is in fantastic condition, this Japanese press. For those of you who might be interested in this record, it is RJ 7321. I guess this has to be one of the more iconic debut albums of the 70s, mostly because of what the Talking Heads became. But this album is loaded with nervous, punkish energy. Caribbean and funk influences were already there, and of course they became part of the band's DNA. And David Byrne's vocal style, the kind of yelping, the vulnerable, sometimes irony-filled, it's great. Psycho Killer, one of the great cult hits. surely one of the great cult hits, featuring fa 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 fa, which always reminds me of the vocal riff of the fa 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 sad song by Otis Redding. I've never found out whether they're connected or not, but anyway, I love it to bits. First time I've ever had that record. Now, I've had this one lots, but I keep putting it up because I keep getting great reviews on this particular pressing, the P8041A, the wonderful Led Zeppelin one, dismissed by critics, bought by the public who knew better. There's the band. If you haven't watched Becoming Led Zeppelin, the documentary, please do so. It's fabulous, and so's this record. There's not much more to be said. We all know how good the debut album of Led Zeppelin is. It's in most people's top 3 or 4. I guess I was listening to The Killing Floor, who are a British blues band who kind of came up at the same time as Led Zeppelin and released their debut. I can't remember whether it's 6 months before or 6 months after. But you can hear how that band, that kind of energetic British blues, was creating a thing, and there are some riffs on there that sound a lot like riffs that made their way onto Led Zeppelin 2. So these bands are borrowing from each other. It's great. It's just great. You can't go wrong. Now, this is another one that I don't think I've ever had before. I look back through the notes and I can't find it. It is this by a band that I don't love, that most of you know. This is Alive, She Cried by The Doors. I think it's the Japanese first press, but it is in immaculate condition. Honestly, I cannot imagine it being better. And I thought this was nice too. I just want to show you. This is the inner sleeve, also in perfect condition. And it also has the story of the record. So talks about, it's written by Benjamin Edmonds when the record was released in 1983, which, feels a bit odd to have a Doors record released in 1983, but it's kind of because there was a clamour for some Doors music, and his legacy, and I mean Jim Morrison's legacy, had never gone away. It was still always there. This kicks off with a kick-ass version of Gloria. I must admit, it does sound really good. Light My Fire, Moonlight Drive, those become quite hypnotic and quite jammy. Whilst it was never really critically lauded, I think there's something to it. I think I like it more than the studio albums, but then I'm not a fan of the studio albums, so don't believe me on any of this. But Live She Cried by the Doors, I was surprised by it. All right, this is a live album that I know much better. This is Rock of Ages by the band. Oh, hard cardboard gatefold again. Beautiful images of the band. What is notable about this performance is that there's a horn section arranged and conducted by Alan Toussaint. Legendary horns arranged by Alan Toussaint. It's got Snooky Young on there, Garth Hudson, of course. Recorded at the Academy of Music, New York, on the eclipse of the new year 1971 to 1972. And I read some of the blogs about this record because it has a big following. That the challenge of recording that band at that time, the way that they did, was hard. You've also got some great special guests like Bobby Charles, one of my favorites, Dr. John, but also Bob Dylan. And I'm not going to spoil it, but man, the Bob Dylan cameo is awesome. King Harvest, Get Up Jake, Stage Fright, The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down Across the Wheels of Fire, The Weight, The Shape I'm In, Chest Fever. Just fantastic double LP with Obi. All right, gosh, how am I going for time? Terribly as always. All right, we have one more I'm going to talk a bit, and then I've got a few kind of shortcuts classics. Now this is really, really pretty. It is, I'm just going to see if I can pull this out. It is the album For Everyone by Jackson Browne, and that is the little insert. Look at that. It's beautiful, kind of impressionistic drawing of the man himself. Here he is. For Everyone, Jackson Browne. This is Jackson Browne's kind of sophomore record, his second album, and it starts off with a little known song called Take It Easy, which became a kind of monster hit by the Eagles. It's not the best song on here though. The best song on here is a song called These Days, which is, in my opinion, worthy of the price of entry alone. Now, I get teased by some of my friends because I do like a bit of 70s pop rock. I've got a bit of kind of interesting soft rock, not quite yacht, but getting there things. I've never had this before. Jackson Browne's For Every Man, and yeah, it's a surprisingly nice record. Again, if there's any Jackson Browne fans out there who would like to give me more information on this record, where it fits in the Jackson Browne story, I'd love to hear it. And now I'm going to finish with just very quick some fantastic, almost but not quite Shortcuts royalty. To get Shortcuts royalty, you'd sell 50 copies across, or 50 of you have had to pick this record up over the years. And I haven't quite got there with these, but they're in the next wave. Here's the first press of Bridge Over Troubled Water by the mighty Simon and Garfunkel. I don't know if it's the quadraphonic. No, it's the stereo, which I think sounds better. The quadraphonic's worth getting if you're into it, but it's not a thing. One of my favourite albums of all time, Parallel Lines by Blondie. This, I'm pretty sure, is the first press. I'll confirm on the night. I know quite a few of you have picked this up and have raved about it, but not as much as this next one. This next one is surprising, the number of you who've bought this over the years and have raved to me about it. It is the first press of Layla and Assorted Love Songs, featuring the incredible Duane Allman and a bunch of other amazing musicians, including Eric Clapton, best thing he ever did by a mile. Layla and Assorted Love Songs. So there you have it, the Beatles Blue Box, as well as Pink Floyd, some red vinyl Beatles, some rare Doors, some very rare Talking Heads as well. As always, please leave me a review and or a comment, like and share and all that kind of business. And I'll hopefully see a bunch of you at my record fair in Manly on June 29th. Ta-da! Bye!